we hope to have time to get to all of it. AP Sports Guy is finally located on the Whiting Clinic LASIK and Eye Care Hotline. Can you, first of all, update us on the news conference schedule this week?
I wish I could say it officially, Dan, but for right now it looks like Justin Patton,
tomorrow,
the first-round pick tomorrow,
right?
And then Jimmy is going to be, right now, tentatively it sounds Wednesday or Thursday. I think they're playing around with a few different dates and availabilities, and so there's a lot of balls in the air right now. So they have not pinned that down yet, but it'll be mid to late this week for Jimmy Butler.
Have you pinned down why he came off the airplane into Tibbs' arms cradling a football?
I mean, Tibbs is a Belichick guy, I think he's bringing a hard-nosed attitude to the bit, and so I think that's sending a message that Jimmy's not here to play around. He's here to put a helmet on and some shoulder pads and play. All part of the symbolism, apparently, of this big move. All right, I got a new rumor. Well, I shouldn't say it's new. It's new to me, and I want to run it by you as well. There are apparently, for every hour, there is a new what the Wolves are going to do at point guard rumor. And if you believe all of them, we're going to have at least 9 new point guards. Yeah. None of them named Rubio. But here's one I hadn't heard, a 3-way deal in which your guy, Patrick Beverley, comes here. Rubio goes to the Jazz. Boris Diaw's contract goes to the Rockets, so then the Rockets can get $6 million off the books to help them go after CP3, Paul George, or another free agent, et cetera, et cetera. Have you heard that one, and is there anything to it? Well, I have heard that certainly Beverly's name is one of many that have come up in conversations with the Timberwolves, and he certainly is a Tom Thibodeau type of point guard in that he is hard-nosed, he's defensive-minded. Rubio can play defense as well. Let me just offer that up. But Beverly seems like he's been a little more consistent with the three-point shot than Rubio has. I mean, he's certainly not Steph Curry, but in that Rockets offense, he did shoot pretty well from three and getting those open looks, catch and shoot kind of possibilities, which he figures to get a lot of here with Butler and Wiggins and Towns. He seems like a kind of guy who can do that. So it would make sense. And the other part of this that would make sense, Dan, is that the Utah Jazz are trying to bring George Hill back, but are, I think, coming to grips with the real possibility that they are going to lose him, that he is going to be priced out of Utah. And if that happens, they need a point guard. Yep. I mean, they've been building and building to get to this point, and whether they lose Hayward or Hill or anybody, they still want to remain competitive. And so Rubio would be a veteran who could slide in there and give them quality play for a couple of years, and they wouldn't fall off all that much from what George Hill was giving them. Now Beverly, I mean, would you classify him as a legitimate lead guard or starting point guard in this? I guess it maybe doesn't matter what we think. It's more like you say what the head coach thinks. But is there enough on the table on him to say, yeah, you can turn over your team to him? Well, I think that you could in this specific situation because the reality of the situation is with the 3 stars that they have now, you're not going to need a ton of playmaking from that spot because the ball is going to be in Jimmy Butler and
Salesforce presents a mini meditation. Unplug your mind, Minneapolis, leaving all your devices to their own devices. Ignore your smartphones, headphones, tablets, gadgets. Let them all recharge so you can refocus on your customer. On your path to customer success, focus your teams with a single 360-degree view of your customer with Salesforce Customer 360. Find customer focus at salesforce.com/360.
Nordo here for my boys at Utapils Brewing, and they are open right now. Head to their Minneapolis tap room and beer garden today for a safe, socially distanced drinking experience. And if you can't make it in, don't worry. Utapils has products available across the state. Don't see it? Ask for it by name. Utapils.
And Andrew Wiggins' hands a ton, and then obviously Towns is going to get his touches off of them. And so that position, that point guard position, won't be may not be the classic ball in your hand, drive and dish kind of a playmaker that Rubio certainly is more of. And so, or like Chris Paul or some of these other players. So, I think that you could, because he's just tenacious defensively. And so when you have Jimmy Butler, Patrick Beverley, and then whether it is Gorgui Dieng and Towns or some other iteration and Towns in the front court, I mean that all of a sudden gives you a lot of teeth defensively to make an impact with. And so, I think you could get by with Beverly, provided he can stay healthy. He is a hard-nosed, tenacious guy. He's gotten hurt from time to time and has missed games because of that style of play. But if you could keep him healthy, and if he were the starter here, I think he would fit in just fine. Okay,
I trust your antenna when it comes to the whole Rubio situation, that you pay attention, you talk to people, you read some things. When the general manager, whatever his title is, was on with the project, he made it sound, he went further than we'd heard anybody before, basically, that Rubio is going to be great here and have a great career here. When I had Tibbs on the same afternoon, he was far more, shall we say, nuanced in his answer. He praised Rubio, but he volunteered to follow up after I gave him a chance to commit to him this season as the point guard by saying, we're always looking, you're always looking to improve your club. The kind of add-on that you're not going to do with a player that you pretty much are convinced is a stalwart and going to be here. So to me, that sent that day more mixed messages about where we are. Do you have any, on the basis of who you've talked to and what you've heard, any sense of where this is? Well,
I'll tell you that I can tell you 100% that no decision has been made yet. They have not made a clear-cut launch the vision decision on it, because it is up in the air. There's two ways to go with this, Dan. One is you stick with Ricky Rubio as your starting point guard, a guy that the owner really likes, a guy that is very popular here, that a lot of his teammates like, that is at a manageable number, $14 million for the next couple of years. And then you use the other cap space that you have, $18, $19 million, to really spend more so on your bench and really fortifying that, because there's really not a whole lot that you have right now behind the starting five to lean on. And so you use that money to add depth, to add a bunch of shooting, to add maybe a little bit of defense as well, and then you go about it that way. The other alternative is you try to package Rubio either in a salary dump to one team who can just absorb him into cap space, or in some kind of sign and trade or something like that. And then you have all of a sudden about $32 million, and you go swinging for a really big fish like a Kyle Lowry, like George Hill will command a lot of money. Jeff Teague will even make more money than Rubio. And then you have really four really quality players, and then you try and fill in the rest of your roster with bit pieces. Now the challenge there, Dan, is can you get people to take bargain deals to come to Minnesota? I don't know that you can just yet. And I think there is a struggle internally between those two plans right now. And so they really have to just figure out, starting July 1st, what options are available to them. Does Kyle Lowry even want to sign here, even if he could? Is George Hill gettable? Those kinds of things. They're doing that due diligence now, but you can talk all you want, and once the clock starts, it's a whole different animal. And so until they know for sure that they can get their veteran point guard to come in either in a trade or free agency, they're not going to trade Rubio, because I do believe that there's a real chance that he's here starting in training camp if they swing and miss on a couple of guys. I think Tibbs' preference is to bring in a big fish, but it's a lot harder to do that in practice than to just think about it.
I got another Lowry question for you. I've got a lot to get to regarding the Twins reversal. And I've got a lot to get to regarding the Michael Floyd situation as well, which may be resolved later today. There's a lot more to discuss with AP Sports guy Johnny Krasinski. Stay tuned.
Barreiro. Bumper to bumper with Barreiro on The Fan.
Bumper to Bumper Fan Radio Network, KFAN.com. As we bring AP Sports Guy back on the Whiting Clinic LASIK and Eye Care hotline, there is some breaking NFL news, Vikings news we need to cover early before we return to the Wolves free agency / point guard kerfuffle as well. Numerous outlets, as you may know by now, Johnny, reporting that a Scottsdale judge found Vikings wide receiver Michael Floyd in violation of the terms of his house arrest by testing positive for alcohol, which he claimed was the result of drinking too much kombucha. Floyd was sentenced to 1 day in jail and has to finish the last 5 days of his house arrest. He can serve the rest of his sentence in Arizona. So, how would you describe this? I would describe it not as a fatal blow in terms of his going forward with the Minnesota Vikings, even though he technically is found guilty of violating the terms of the house arrest. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was under the impression, obviously mistakenly, that he was kind of vulnerable to a far greater punishment for violating the terms of his release than just 1 day in jail and having to do 5 more days to finish out the 5 days of house arrest. So given that, I mean, the punishment seems to me fairly light. And so he's going to be able to do it and take care of it long before training camp begins. Now, I don't know. I think the question now becomes, does he become exposed to any punishment by the NFL and any further suspension or anything like that than he already is? And so that, to me, would be the key question in terms of whether the Vikings make a decision to stick it out with Michael Floyd or go in another direction. I think their greater concern obviously has to be, do they really believe the kombucha defense, which they are backing publicly, and do they think he can get a handle if this instead was a cover for some more drinking? Can he get a handle on this issue before he has to play? I mean, not only for himself and for his well-being, but for the team as well. And so those are the questions that need to be answered. But I am surprised right now at just how light that punishment is.
I'm wondering if it means that, in effect, the judge believed the kombucha defense, and that to that extent, the Vikings may themselves have saved it by going as public as they did with the notion that, well, I don't know if they intended to go public. It got out, I guess is a better way to put it, saying, we serve the kombucha for breakfast, we serve it for lunch, we serve it for dinner, we serve it on tap. It's everywhere, which, again, to me was bizarre in that, you'd like to think that teams especially would be anal about what is in these drinks, especially as it pertains to someone who is on the kind of probation that this particular player is. That's the part that it sounds as if they had no clue that this might, if you're going to believe the kombucha defense, that is, that this could contribute to somebody's numbers if they decided to drink jugs and jugs of kombucha.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole weird thing about this, Dan, is one, they are absolutely backing him to the hilt on this, clearly. I mean, when you submit some testimony and basically a letter to a judge and the court, that's pretty serious. I mean, that means that you are standing behind him and that you do, to some extent, believe the story that was offered. And so if it turns out, if some evidence is uncovered that he was actually drinking alcohol, or if he has further problems with this going forward, you do certainly run the risk of having some egg on your face by doing it. Clearly, they believe in Michael Floyd, and so